The Darien Gap is the deadliest, most lawless jungle on Earth. One traveler attempted to cross it and completely lost his mind. Trapped in suffocating heat, paranoia transformed shadows into ruthless assassins. He spent 7 days sprinting blindly from an invisible enemy. Proving the jungle's greatest danger is the terror within your own mind. Connecting the massive continents of North and South America is a terrifying, lawless 60-mile stretch of completely untamed wilderness. The Pan-American Highway connects the entire hemisphere. But even modern engineering completely surrendered to this impenetrable wall of nature. This is the Darien Gap, an environment so brutally hostile, it is universally known as the deadliest jungle crossing on planet Earth. Despite severe warnings, an experienced, highly confident traveler decided to conquer the deadly gap completely alone, equipped with heavy survival gear. He entered the green labyrinth. But within the very first hour, the sheer physical brutality of the jungle crushed any romantic illusion of adventure. The temperature routinely hovers at 100 degrees, trapped beneath a thick canopy that creates a suffocating 100% humidity. With every single breath, you inhale thick, hot moisture. Sweat cannot evaporate, and the human body literally begins to boil from the inside out. By day 2, he encountered the relentless, energy-draining physical obstacle of the Darien Gap, the deep, treacherous black mud. The mud here is like wet concrete. Every single step requires a massive exertion of physical energy just to pull your leg free. Progress slowed to less than a mile a day. The precious supply of clean drinking water in his pack rapidly disappeared. But the true danger of the Darien Gap isn't physical starvation. It is the sudden, terrifying collapse of human psychology. To survive, humans rely on recognizing patterns and distinct shapes. The jungle aggressively denies the brain both of these things. Everything is a chaotic, unbroken wall of claustrophobic green. Without a horizon line, the human mind quickly loses all sense of direction. When night falls, the sheer volume of noise is absolutely deafening. Millions of insects, frogs, and predators scream into the dark. Deprived of sleep, heavily dehydrated, and severely isolated, the traveler's brain began to misfire, triggering intense, terrifying auditory hallucinations. In the brutal silence of the jungle, the human brain desperately seeks patterns. The random snapping of dry twigs suddenly sounded like footsteps. He became absolutely convinced that a heavily armed cartel patrol was actively stalking him through the deep green shadows of the canopy. Severe dehydration thickens the blood, reducing oxygen flow to the brain's visual cortex. The dark shadows of the jungle literally began to warp. To escape the invisible assassins he heard behind him, the traveler made a completely irrational, devastatingly fatal decision. He began to run. Sprinting through the Darien Gap is physical suicide. To move faster, his paranoid mind concluded his heavy survival gear was slowing him down. He violently threw his massive backpack into the deep mud, completely abandoning his food, his water purifier, and his only medical kit. By discarding his tools, he guaranteed his own death. But the psychosis was absolute. The invisible assassins were right behind him. He sprinted blindly for hours. The jagged thorns of the jungle tore his light blue hiking shirt completely to bloody shreds. Running wildly through a jungle dramatically increases the odds of a lethal encounter. The Darien Gap is heavily populated by the fer-de-lance. It is one of the most aggressive, highly venomous snakes on Earth. One bite in this extreme isolation guarantees a horrific, agonizing death. Miraculously, his frantic footsteps completely missed the hidden predators. But the relentless, unyielding heat was slowly cooking his internal organs. By day 5, extreme dehydration induced a terrifying medical condition known as paradoxical undressing. He felt unnaturally, violently hot. His brain falsely signaled that his body was burning. He aggressively stripped off his shirt, leaving his skin completely exposed to swarming insects. At night, he collapsed in the thick mud, violently shivering in the dark, too terrified to even close his swollen eyes. To quench his burning thirst, he desperately drank directly from stagnant, muddy swamp pools, ingesting highly toxic, dangerous tropical bacteria. The contaminated water immediately triggered severe dysentery. His body aggressively purged whatever tiny amount of hydration he had left. By day 7, the incredibly brutal, unyielding reality of the Darien Gap had completely broken him down into a primal state. He could no longer stand. He dragged his bleeding body through the deep, wet mud, waiting for the invisible assassins to finally strike. But the assassins never came. As his vision slowly faded to black, he suddenly heard the incredibly loud, aggressive sound of a motorboat. He had accidentally crawled all the way to the edge of a massive river, and an indigenous patrol boat had spotted his muddy silhouette. The indigenous river patrol pulled their heavy wooden boat onto the muddy bank, cautiously approaching the trembling, severely emaciated traveler. His shattered mind still fully believed these rescuers were the imaginary assassins sent to kill him, causing him to panic. They gently wrapped his broken body in thermal blankets, loaded him into the boat, and sped toward a medical outpost. At the military clinic, doctors were stunned by his condition. His kidneys were aggressively shutting down from extreme dehydration. His feet were completely shredded, and his skin was covered in deep, heavily infected lacerations from the razor-sharp jungle thorns. It took days of intensive intravenous fluids for his broken brain to finally clear the terrifying, deeply ingrained paranoia. When authorities interrogated him about the armed men chasing him, the incredibly skilled military trackers revealed a stunning truth. They had followed his trail deep into the mud to retrieve his backpack, but found absolutely no other human footprints. There were never any assassins. The traveler had spent 7 agonizing days sprinting through a deadly jungle, running from himself. Severe environmental stress, heat, and isolation caused his brain's fear center to misfire, fabricating an incredibly vivid, lethal enemy. This phenomenon proves that the jungle does not need fangs or claws to kill you. It weaponizes your own mind. Paranoia can create a reality so convincing, it forces experienced survivalists to literally run themselves to death in the wilderness. The Darien Gap remains a massive, untamed graveyard for those who heavily underestimate the brutal psychological toll of nature. If you lose your mental grip in the deep jungle, your own body becomes the absolute most dangerous predator. He survived because he found a river. Most people who run blindly from imaginary threats simply disappear into the green void forever. It only takes 7 days for the jungle to completely break a man's sanity. But what happens if that intense survival-driven paranoia lasts for 30 years? In 1944, a Japanese intelligence officer named Hiru Onoda was deployed to a remote tropical island in the Philippines. His strict orders were simple: wage a brutal guerrilla war and absolutely never surrender, even if the empire falls. World War II ended just months later, The military dropped thousands of flyers over the jungle, declaring peace. But Onoda believed the leaflets were a psychological trick. Convinced the war was still raging, he retreated deeper into the mountains. For the next 29 years, he waged a terrifying, violent one-man war against an enemy that didn't exist. He survived on stolen rice and sheer fanatical discipline, his mind completely warped by total isolation and unbroken loyalty. It wasn't until 1974 that an adventurous explorer finally tracked the mythical soldier down to deliver the truth. But Onoda fiercely refused to leave until his original commander returned to the jungle to formally relieve him of duty. Click the video on your screen to uncover the absolutely unbelievable true psychological survival story of Hiroo Onoda.